Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
It's Incredible Life Stories with Simon Kasyate, where extraordinary life stories are told and lived by ordinary folks. Tonight on the program, we have somebody that has, or should we say, is living a life that has had its fair share of crests and troughs. But isn't that how life is lived? Who lives their life on top of a plateau? Or who lives life at the bottom of the pit? If any of them do exist, that too is an extraordinary life story that would best be told with me, Simon Kasyate. Welcome tonight. Judith Owembabazi, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in a long time. You were a lady that was trailblazing on the corporate scene as a corporate employee. Now you're trailblazing in the area of entrepreneurship. And both areas are like two worlds apart, but you also do much more than that. You're a parent, you are a mentor, you do everything that life throws at you. Sometimes it comes in the form of lemons, and we've seen you squeeze some nice lemonade and drink it. Welcome to the program, Judith.
Thank you, Simon. It's been a while, and it's good to be here. Thank you so much. And you have really wrapped up the show before we started.
That's how I did, but I know that you have a better story to
tell. I've been hiding here. I went through the corporate life. Indeed, did my fair share of running around, building brands, financial brands, banks, that I was super excited about. I remember joining housing finance, the bank. Then it wasn't a bank, it was an institution. Yes, it was a tier something institution. And that time I had been interning in the central bank, and then I had moved to the then UCB, which was being taken over by Stanbic. So I was one of the behind the scenes writers that was fighting for UCB to survive. And well, boy, did we lose.
We know your success right now.
So we didn't succeed. My passion then as a young lady was because my mom had worked in UCB, and growing up, that tower, which today you call Cham Towers,
was like the postcard
oh
image
my God, was
of
like,
what had built your family.
Yes. Especially at Christmas time, the Christmas tree would be so big and there would be big sweets. So I grew up aspiring to work in there. And so seeing it go down is another whole long story. But anyway, after that, I went to housing finance. And when I joined housing finance, they had one branch on Kampala Road. Yes. They were 40 years old.
With one branch?
Yes, and they had what they called a mini branch in Namongo, which had been
set up for a particular...
Set up for a project. Yes, then to upgrade...
Unslamming Namongo.
Yes.
So they, which, well, it's not, we're not supposed to play judge on whether they succeeded, but considering what Namongo is today and what other places could look like in the grand scheme of things, not much of the slum left, but well.
I think they upgraded the slum. Then the upgrade was real compared to what it was. Because if I flash back as a child, we had lived near Namongo at some point with my mom before she left to live in Imbara. So for me, the upgrade, there was, yes, a bit of an upgrade.
It was a black and white transformation.
Yes. Wow. If you grew up there, then you know that there was a bit of an upgrade. And it was that, and it was well worth it, seeing that it's the corporate, the so-called middle income earners that went, yes, the elite that went to buy it. So I think at the time the project was appropriate, and I do honor that journey. But when I joined the bank, I remember sitting in the boardroom and doing an interview with the senior management then. And what had I applied for? Marketing officer job. I was fresh out of campus, but I'd been working throughout my life, really. I started working like in S something.
So you're always doing the small little gigs and holidays and the like, yes.
So when I sat through this interview, I had, I think I had more questions than they did.
Oh, that's where your problems begin from.
And that's where my problems began from. So I set myself up. After a week, when they called me back, they said, you applied for officer, but you know there were 2 jobs we had advertised. Are you okay coming back? I said, but the other job, to be the head of the department, you needed to have a master's, and I was still doing a postgraduate diploma in computer science then, something not
related.
They said, but are you comfortable? Can you come and sit for the interview? This time you're not going to sit with us as management, but with the board. I was like, bring it on. I had nothing to lose.
The worst they could tell you is no.
And I had too many things I wanted to tell them. Their reception was the most intimidating thing I had ever gone through.
I mean, what it had.
So there was
go through a canopy of guns?
No, there was this beautiful lady that used to sit at the front in a bit of something that was high-rise wooden, like a kiosk, and she'd been there literally sleeping. And then she would wake up like this.
On hearing some footsteps.
Yes, and she asked you, what do you want?
Plainly, as I don't even say hello.
Yeah,
say,
hi, what do you want? What do you want to see? And she'll give you a long form to fill in. Really bored. And then they could give you an appointment for another day. So you can't call me to come to your office and then I have to go through the rules of filling in a form.
And then get an appointment
for days later. So, so I had a lot of bones to pick. Those days, the internet had just
come on board, so to speak.
Yes, so you had to have a website. You know, tech was just picking up. It wasn't the way it is today.
But for that particular organization, to know about it, you had to come and get flyers. Sometimes in black and white.
Yeah, so it was pretty different. You had to get an appointment to see a loans officer. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Now
the board would sit once in about 6 months, 9 months to decide on if you get a mortgage or not. Never mind that many people didn't even know what the word mortgage meant, Absolutely. Including some staff.
Mortgage was meant possibly selling part of your liver just to have
they could not quite define it. So when I went into this boardroom, there were all these intimidating board members, people you know, very highly respectable gentlemen.
No
and I think there was one lady or two. And so they asked me all these questions. And then we talked for a little longer than we should have. And then when I was leaving, I remember giving them my business cards and telling them how I was still working for now Stanbic. And yeah, they could call me if they needed some advice because they really needed help. And then they laughed. And then they asked me, do you remember everything you have talked about in this meeting? I said, yes. I said, would you be able to do them? I said, of course. And then I left. And the rest is history. I had set myself up.
You tell us the nitty-gritty of how then you find that corporate mumbo-jumbo and your achievements therein. But now we know that you've since transited out of that very active part of your life into a more personalized enterprise being, or what others would simply put this way. You are now self-employed. How's that faring?
Yes, I told you the nitty-gritties because sometimes you can think you're a superstar because you've sorted out certain areas in an organization.
You fixed it.
You fix. So now as I was walking out of housing finance many years later, having also supported the setup of EcoBank here, having made my mark fairly in some other enterprises where I would moonlight, I was feeling like,
now I know what it takes.
Now I know what it takes.
To build businesses.
Yes.
To spruce up brands.
Yes. I had a salon that was blooming on Plot 1, Kimathi Avenue, and I was thinking, yeah, I got this. And now, many years later, when you walk out, I think everyone needs to walk out with that little book called The E-Myth.
E-Myth.
Yes.
What's that?
I don't even remember the author. The E-Myth is a book that humbles you. It tells you that just because you have been the best head of marketing in a certain institution does not make you the best head of HR, finance, risk, name it. So when you come to start your own business, you better wear all those hats and wear them as well.
Aware that you just cannot be a jack of all trades.
Of course you can't. So then you start to be humble. You start to understand.
Does being humble come from within, or the failures and downfalls and challenges of entrepreneurship humble you by the episode?
My friend, those two are one thing and the same. Either way, you either organize yourself early enough and start to get help, or
You think?
yeah, life will humble you to cut you.
To size.
Yes.
Sometimes below size.
Yeah, a lot of times below size. Why below size? Because already you know so much. You've been exposed. You've been in boardrooms.
But
you have
on the
created
ground,
products.
as they say these days, birara mukko.
Birara nnyo.
It's different.
Yes.
Before we take a break, Judith, this transition from a highly organized, hierarchical, institutional framework where you are part of a big brand and making things happen into now private practice, which then humbles you as you've described, that transition has not just a financial impact on you, but may even be worse and create a state of mental health that may render you incapacitated for the long haul in the evening of your life. Where are you?
Wow. When you bring the subject of mental health, I think it's something we need to delve a little bit deeper. I think the mental health subject is even worse in the corporate world.
While in there or after you have
While
left?
in there. While in there. I think if they were to do a random test of mental health wellness amongst entrepreneurs and active employees in the corporate world that live, I don't know, I never read the book 50 Shades of Grey, I don't know what's in there, but I don't know the shades in the corporate world if they are anything like that. Then you would find that the masks in the corporate world are much worse, in my opinion and in my experience, than in the entrepreneurial world.
So in other words, you have got a bunch of these very functioning zombies in corporate settings, but if you peel off the if you peel off the mask, you just have a bunch of mad people. That's why
yes,
zombies.
And not just a bunch of mad people, a bunch of very dysfunctional beings, very cosmetic. So behind the glitz and the glamour, there is a lot more. So I'll just tell you a quick story. One time I had this huge event that I was handling, and I was known a little bit for throwing all these events. But people don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yes.
I remember this particular event I was about to run in a certain organization, and I was having the vice president of MasterCard flying in after I had written requesting for some funding. And then my MD says, you know what, we're not going to have that press conference. And I had called him for that press conference. You know, in marketing.
How long ago, how long was it from the date planned for the press conference? Did you receive the bad news? That
my friend, it
before?
was less than 48 hours.
Ooh. Okay.
And so now I had to wear my PR hat. And MD said, no, we sat in EXCO. And that particular EXCO, remember, they will not call you.
Absolutely. The one which has to make such
the
a
one
hard
which has
decision.
such a decision to disorient you. And yet you're doing this event for the organization. And so I bless God that I can think very quick on my feet. Again, if we go back to my upbringing,
Which
you
you'll be
have to
telling us shortly.
survive. Yes. So anyway, that is tough for mental health. Damned if you do, damned if
You don't.
yeah, because still they will appraise you against that same event. So I remember calling the gentleman who was coordinating us both, and I said, look, I am going to offer you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 benefits. I want to make sure you sit next to the vice president. I want to make sure I sit next to the central bank governor. I want to make sure your brand is high up there. I am going to make sure that I have put your brand on every product, every communication that we are going to have. And I think that day there was something had happened. I said, I think the journalists are a little distracted today. Let's have them in the room on the D-Day. That's how I survived. But people were seeing me smiling up on the podium, but I would run to the bathroom and cry. And then I wash my face, and you know that I don't wear makeup. So that is tough for mental health.
So in other words, Judith, you're telling us that what we see is a housing that for the most part may be deceptive, but inside there is a lot of demons fighting each other. Just to keep you steady, you create and live a facade.
Yes.
That's your incredible life story.
Yes, and that facade is what creates the misalignment. Because I would be smiling, but inside I am crying. Suffice to note that by the time I left, I was going through a proper, severe depression. We will talk about it sometime.
Well, she's now playing the role of cue setter here. Judith ensuring that we just don't continue with this conversation, but I think we need to just take a short break and allow for this story, the preamble of Judith's incredible life story, to sink in. For many of you who possibly are living an existential lifestyle like she did, and or those that are aspiring to be in her position, to know that both, they are ramifications, some of these existences.
Absolutely.
It's Incredible Life Story with Simon Kasyate. We'll be right back.
Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
Welcome back. It's Incredible Life Stories with me, Simon Kasyate, and having the pleasure of hosting a good old friend, but someone whose incredible life story I possibly would never have had, because for the longest time, she wore a facade, she wore a mask, she lived a life that was, I don't use the word deceptive, but was not so much in touch with the inner circumstances of our existence. What we saw was a beautiful, bubbly, nice, well-meaning lady, but who was struggling so much inside. Now, Judy, let's start from where it all begins. Who are you? When were you born? Where were you born? To whom were you born? Just answer all that in one wrap.
Oh, wow. So, my name is Judith Owembabazi, but my mother had named me Judith Mary Owembabazi.
So why the remix? Why do you drop a very important name like Mary?
Then her friend had named me Natasha. So there were many names, and growing up, I needed to have a shorter.
Already Owembabazi is a sentence in its own right.
Yeah. So my mother was a nun. Yes. For 10 years, a Catholic nun.
So you were conceived by Immaculate Conception, or there's a story between
Oh,
being
how I
nun?
wish I was. No, no. So my mother was a nun for 10 years, and some of her siblings too. God rest their souls in peace. She's the only one surviving now. So what happens when you hit 10 years, you make a choice, whether to stay for life and you take a life vow, or you can leave. Yes, so my mother took the option of leaving in protest. Why? Those days there's a way nuns were treated, that she had a bone to pick with.
Okay, is it any different now? Anyway, when she comes on this very chair where you're seated and tell her life story, she will tell us exactly.
It's a lot better, I believe.
But
at least you can get to see them, and they can drive and stuff like that.
Then they were not supposed to be seen anyway.
No, you
So
have to be in there interceding.
So it's true, that sentence in this movie that we are all watching at the moment, now that we're in the middle of the conclave starting, where a nun says, Even though we nuns are not meant to be seen,
Yes.
God blessed us with ears and eyes.
Eyes, absolutely. Um,
So your mom?
it's a whole episode. And I grew up in convents and also
Let me
in
get this
churches.
right.
Yes.
Okay, your mom is a nun.
Yeah.
After 10 years,
She leaves, and she had me 5 years later.
okay, okay, that
You can do the math. She could not have had it for 5 years.
Or should we say, are you the first of her children?
I am the first and the last, as having children was never part of her plan.
She'll tell us when she sits on that chair, but you know something about your mother that we do not know that
Yes.
explains your existence. So Judith, your mother tells you she left a convent.
Yeah.
And here you are, born to the best of your recollection. Didn't you carry a bit of the extended stigma of people looking at you saying, that's a daughter of a nun?
Oh, you have no idea. They actually said I was a daughter of a bishop. Because if you are a daughter of a nun, then your father
Must be a clergyman.
must be a clergyman.
And for your mom's looks and her gait, I'm sure
And she was so beautiful.
only a bishop could have been able to.
Yeah. So I was traumatized. I remember when I was in Maryhill at some point.
Okay, do you want to debunk that? Is your dad a bishop?
No. And my dad, God rest his soul in peace, was also a very religious man. He was the chairman of Radio Maria, and his name is Katuramo Anthony.
Wow.
Yes. Chirinja.
So there you are, born to this nun, carrying an extended stigma of that's the daughter of a bishop and an ex-nun.
Yes. There was even no room for the stigma. I was in there all the time. We go for mass every day.
Don't even tell
Standard
you.
procedure.
They keep pointing their mouths at you.
Yes. So we would go and pray. But my mom, she had me from Mobende. She first ran away to hide.
Where was she coming from? Where was the convent that she...
In Barra.
In Barra. So when she leaves, she goes to Mubende.
She comes to Kampala, I think, and then she goes to Mobende. Her story is very traumatizing for me. Every time I am going up that hill in Nyamitanga, I get goosebumps because she told me when she decided to leave, they unveil you. And it's a very traumatizing experience. So she had to walk out of the convent, and it was very dehumanizing. They don't give you any support, they don't give you any money, they don't give you any counseling.
But when they take off the veil,
of course you stay with some clothes, some form of clothes, but that's it. And she says when she walked out, she looked left, she looked right, she didn't know where to go.
Except forward, which was bleak.
Yeah. But then we have this special
bond,
special grace, special God, special angels that have looked out for me and my mom. That's why I say that song, Echisechi Nondola, was written for me. So as she was walking out, blinking back tears, she was about to fall and somebody held her. And she looked up and it was a priest, a common priest known as Father Bashawara. So Father Bashawara gave her her starting kit, gave her some money, gave her some dignity. And Father Bashawara actually now introduced her to my dad and said, help this young lady find something to do.
In other words, she's in a situation where she needs some more men on the job.
Anyway, I don't know a lot of things that happened in between, but I know for a fact that my mother's intention was never to have children or to be married or to be in a relationship. But somehow I happened, and I thank God.
I think she thanks God 10 times more than she...
I thank God because today she's blind, she's old, I live with her. I keep thinking, who would have been taking care of her? I know how the elderly suffer in most of these convents and other places. I don't want to talk about Holy Grail today.
So, growing up, now, when you happen, are you now living in a nuclear family as we know it? Daddy, mommy, then you as a child?
No.
Now it's you and
raised all my life as a daughter to a single mother.
at a time when that was heavily frowned
Never seen
upon.
my mother in a relationship. I have never.
But that was a situation that was heavily frowned upon?
Yes.
Naturally, even if...
Yes.
But for you, it was even double because you were a daughter of an
Ex-nan, yes.
Ex-nan?
Yes. My
Then-
mother was traumatized.
And how was that not translated to you to the extent of affecting you? Because you seem to have had a happy childhood, even though you were in a bubble of some kind of trauma, some kind of stigma.
No, I was surrounded by love. My mother protected me with her life. If you talk to people who come from the same village where I come from, I don't know most of them, but they knew that, oh, my mom actually the sequel home sister. So when you come to my mother's home and you're looking for her, if you say her name, they don't know it. But you say Ninzo home sister,
Wow.
yeah, then they will
know.
bring you home.
Wow.
So she hid me for the most part, and I read a lot of novels. The White Fathers, the nuns, even the other Ugandan ones, they pampered me a lot. So they'd give me books to read. There were no luxuries of TV. Radio was for John Salongo and the announcements.
Tugaragara Matojo.
God rest his soul in peace. He was my classmate for Mascom.
I don't want to tell you my story with him, but he works with my father. So let's
Oh,
proceed
oh
with
wow.
yours.
Yeah. So I grew up for the better part in Barra. I went to Maryhill High School. I went to St. Aloysius Primary School. Then Uganda Matters, St. Aloysius, then Maryhill.
So clearly,
and then I came.
Catholic founded
Everything.
grounding in there.
Yeah, everything. Everything.
And
And a lot of dogma, a lot of prayers. So there is a story in there around S2 that you will need to talk to me another time, because my mom prayed so much that with all her siblings, all they knew was God, because their father was one of the people that took religion
To that
the
part
West.
of the country, yes.
So when I was in S2, we were told the world was coming to an end. No, ending S1, joining S2, yeah, around there. So I was taken, and I lived with Chiwetere and all these people that you guys talk about as if they are from a movie.
So you know,
Yes.
Father, you know Joseph.
Yes,
Chiwete,
yes.
Dominic Kataribaba.
Yes, Dominic Kataribabo. I
Claudia
spent my
Mwirinde.
entire P7 vacation with him in Bunyaruguru, in that house that you probably went to film. And he was no murderer. He was a loving person. He took care of us, many orphans, many fatherless children. And he was an intelligent, incredibly intelligent priest.
Okay, now, I mean, your story is
We are
just
not gonna
scattering
talk about
me
this
through
right
different
now.
places, but it's an incredible life story, nonetheless. So the world is coming to an end.
Yeah, so we go to pray. And while I was there praying, there's a reason I've brought in this angle. So you understand when I tell you that my mom and I are protected by the divine.
Clearly it shows.
So S2, they take me, and my mother doesn't know where I am, because they would move us to different places. But I was lucky. Always, they stayed with me. So the leadership...
They meaning the leadership of...
The leadership, yeah, because there were very many people, in thousands.
That communion was the restoration of the
Ten Commandments.
Yes.
And this is something the church has not addressed. But in my opinion, there was a crisis in the church then. Priests were dying of HIV. Nuns were dying, and nobody was talking about this
And
stuff.
this is not stuff you pick up from shaking hands?
No.
Or drinking unboiled water?
No.
Or
And I know I'm
airborne?
going to get in trouble for saying this.
Judith, you're already in too much trouble. It can't get worse.
But it is the truth. And so these people were church leaders, and they wanted to restore sanity in the church.
So you survived the apocalypse.
Yes, I did.
But those guys that were taking care of you didn't survive it. Was it around the same time?
No, I left. How did I leave? I questioned way too much. I'm too conversational, as you can already see. I was always in trouble. I was always punished for talking, because we were never supposed to talk. We were supposed to only pray. And those days, people were actually praying.
And didn't they know that somehow you'd end up making a living from talking? Stop that.
Do you see how strange that is?
So Judith, in all
would
this,
speak.
did you at any one time, because you know when you're a young child, you wake up one morning, you feel like a lawyer, you feel like a doctor, you feel
Yes.
like, you know.
Yes.
Was there a moment you woke up and felt like you want to join the Holy Order?
Oh yes, I
be
actually
a nun?
did go to the Poor Clares. Sorry.
No, that's
I
perfect.
actually did go to the Poor Clares. I wanted to join and become a nun when I was in my P7 vacation. And the Poor Clares, for them, they don't go out. Every time you go there, you just feel like you're floating in heaven. And so I was like, I will not go where my mom went, but I will go to this one. There was a nun, Sister Stefan, God bless her. She was wise, and she said, not this time. You'll come when you're in S4.
And that's how you eventually go through school and your dreams and aspirations begin to shift, and you conclude your O level and go to university. Am I right?
Yes. But in between there, I was saved by Father Bashora from the Chiwetere movement. Similar style, the way he appeared for my mom. So I was running, I jumped off a pickup. Yeah, my life is like a movie. So I jumped off this pickup after begging one of the sons. Kenneth is still alive. He can attest to this story. And I had said I want to go home. I was really tired of
being in there.
the suffering. I was like, but this God who doesn't want us to live a good life, wants us to live in other people's homes. Let me go home. So Kenneth helped me to escape, sat on this pickup, which was driven by his brother Charles. A couple of other things had happened behind the scenes, and I was really scared. I really needed to go. And this has nothing to do with Chiwetere, but you know the socialization with the young people there. The young men were harassing me, and I really wanted to run away. So one morning I wake up and they're fighting, and I hear them arguing who's going to marry me off. And I'm like, no, I'm not staying here.
Here you were supposedly to be in a holy space
Yes,
where you are,
yes.
you know, it's all about divinity, sanctity, chastity, and of course total celibacy.
Yes.
And then there is an argument within hot-blooded
young
adolescents.
boys, yes, brothers. One of them has his father's gun, this Chimwe thing. And now what scared me the most was that I couldn't imagine that these people also, they had the rosary and the gun. It wasn't working for me.
And then they also had the feelings
Yes.
of.
So I wanted to go. And so
fled.
Kenneth said, I'm going to help you. So I sat on the back of the pickup, and I was about to jump off. And as I was running and I was about to fall, who held me?
Father Bashomora.
Yes.
That seems to be the Angel Gabriel of your time. That every time there was an issue, then there was Angel Gabriel
Even
showing
now.
up. And now there you are. Judith.
So that's how I went through school. He took me back to Maryhill. You don't know how I was looking like. One sandal because the other one had fallen off as I was jumping off the pickup. That's another set of trauma in my life.
And
you go back
that's
to
not
school and now everyone is looking at you like...
And you can't tell the full story because it has gaps in between that.
No, that time I couldn't even talk. I've just started talking now.
What?
Yeah, I couldn't talk about it. It was shameful. I remember a professor came from Rhodes University and tried to coerce me into going to... They wanted to study, they wanted me to write I don't know what, and I couldn't talk.
Is there something you're considering other than telling me your incredible life story on the program to maybe put this in text and write a book?
Why not? It's on the cards.
I'll be happy to be part of the ghostwriters. Well, let's be one of us people to review it.
Why not?
But that said, so you get out of secondary school and go to university.
Yes.
What was your preferred vocation? What were you going to study at the university?
Of course, growing up, they used to tell us you're either a lawyer,
an engineer, doctor.
Since I had buried my science books at a certain point at school, so the only thing that was there for me was to become a lawyer. So I went to Butare University.
In Rwanda?
In Rwanda. So there was this rumor that the president of Rwanda, the new president of Rwanda then, it was shortly after the genocide, wants to train some lawyers.
Pasteur Bizimungu at the time, the vice president being Paul Kagame. Or
yes.
had Paul Kagame the president now?
I think Paul Kagame was the vice president. You think I even knew the details of
For
those
you,
things?
you just had the new president of
one thing.
Rwanda.
The new president of Rwanda wants to train young people to try the genociders or something like that. I didn't even know what the genocide meant. There was no TV in my mother's house. There was no exposure. I was excited that finally I was going to get to do law because my career was certainly not going to take me. I had gotten, I think, 11 points.
Wow.
So my friends were organizing. I don't even know how everything worked out, and then we ended up in Kigali. I was there for a very short time. I was traumatized. It was shortly after the genocide. You couldn't breathe. The blood. What? The fear.
The air still smelled of sulfur.
Yes.
The devil was still lingering around.
Yes. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And people would sneeze like this. And then things. So I found my way back home. I had decided to rebound S6. But then a friend of mine told me there was a new course that was being introduced for evening at Makerere. That was mass comm. I had no idea what it meant, how I would end up. All they said is that it's fancy, it's expensive, you become a journalist.
I said, that's my thing.
I had no school fees. I didn't really have a good plan. But I came, and by God's grace, I was able to work while paying my own tuition at the university.
Yes, we're going to take a short break, but I just need to understand, in all this, what was your mother doing for a living?
My mother worked in UCB, and then...
so let's say she found her grounding back to a proper secular, you would say, way of living in terms of work?
Yeah, she worked there. She had the longest queues.
Because she was very kind.
Yeah, no, because she'll count your money. Remember, there were no money counting machines. And if it's extra, she'll give you what's excess. If you leave and you leave it there, she'll keep it and then you'll find it.
Other tailors?
I don't know about them. I don't know about them. But I know every child who paid school fees was sent to my mother's till. And that also wore her out.
And you can imagine the blisters on her hands.
And her shoulders and stuff. She still feels pain up to today. These are things that, residual things that happen after the corporate
journey has possibly come to an end. It's an incredible life story with Simon Kasyate. You'll agree with me that Judith Owembabazi has an incredible life story that she is just buggling up for us, because again, going into the finer details may take us into day 2, day 3, and day 4. But we'll be right back for more of this conversation.
Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.
Judith is a person that has seen hell in its fullness, has seen heaven in its glory, and she tells me that the devil is always in the details. Now, her conversation today may have to delve further into the details of her incredible life story. Judith, when we just broke off, you had now found your way to Makerere University in Kampala to study an evening course, but at the same time, you were moonlighting doing some work. What were you doing?
So, at first, when I came to Makerere, I had a friend who had promised that he would pay for me my tuition.
How kind was this friend?
On condition
that you married
that I will marry him.
Okay. At least I'm glad he was forthright.
No, we were clear on that.
He was clear, he made his...
So, we come...
And you said yes?
Of course.
That was the proposition, you said yes.
Yes. Okay, but I said, you see, I have to take care of myself and of my mom and all of these things, so you will allow me to study.
But you will take me as a full package.
And you will wait. Remember, I have all the trauma from Chiwetere, all of those things.
Your mom, your everything.
So we cannot start being all these intimate things. You have to give me some time and all, which was not working. It rarely works for gentlemen. So anyway,
time is not an ally on matters of the heart.
Anyway, it couldn't work out because I think
at least one semester was paid.
Yeah, one semester, yes, actually. And then I had a lot of friends who were willing. So
to take you on, but without the appendage
no,
of marrying you immediately.
I had my girlfriends who were willing.
Oh, you had no girlfriends around.
Who were willing to meet his.
Oh, to meet his.
Yes. So
I thought who were willing to support you.
No, who were available. So anyway, let's not talk about that.
But let's also indicate that that was another major heartbreak milestone.
Oh yes, I spent 30 days in CC in my room crying.
See, that's the detail you are not telling us, and that's why I said the
30
devil is in the detail.
days. I cried, and for those 30 days, he'd come and park his car at CC. So there was a lot of drama. I thank God that time there was no red paper. I don't know who. Oh, I would have been right in the thick of things. But anyhow, I had decided to move on, and for me, I believe in one principle: obudanyuma buta.
Let's put it in English.
Aha.
A reverse gear,
Kills.
sure death.
So yes, I was able to move on, but I do honor my friend. He was a very humorous gentleman. We still are friends.
That very guy.
Yes. So I was in CCE, but there were some other young men who were lecturers that time that used to see me go to eat and then walk back. So from the trauma and the way my mom raised me, you would not walk while looking at people. So if you're used to me, I walk while looking down. I noticed that lately, that also that's why I walk like that. Because she say, "Noba noreba chabantu."
Look.
So I would walk looking down.
The same way we walk while we were going for our Holy Communion.
That's exactly how I walk. If there is a crowd, even after talking, I'll still come looking down. So those are the things that shape who we are and who we become.
So you conclude your journey at the university, but let's not forget, Judith, at the university there is freedom unfettered.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of temptations that come one's way. You're a girl child, of course, there could have been this guy interested in marrying you and paying your school fees.
Yeah.
Others may not know that story, and so they would find you in fancy. You just talked about lecturers that would see you walking.
Yes. Those lecturers saved my life. Huh? So for those 30 days while I was in my room crying at CCE, not knowing what to do, they wondered why I wasn't coming out to eat. So they came and knocked at my window. And that's how I got my first job at the Makerere University psychology department.
But you were wasted goods, Judith. Yourself needed psychological help. Why were they giving you? They brought you in as a patient, as a case study?
Do you know how old I was? I told them I was going to commit suicide because I didn't have where to get food. This man who had brought me to Kampala had betrayed my love. And I wanted to study. And my mother was in Mbara. And I don't have
a social safety network.
No,
around.
I didn't. But I'd made friends with the late Christine Kaneza, God rest her soul in peace. And so she had become my guardian angel in that class, in that season, amongst many other people. So when these gentlemen came and I told them, so they put me in charge. They created a desk there. They used to have, I think, a chair for making their own money. There's a program they were running. So they made me the administrator of that program. There I went. I had a title. So they would collect money and support for my tuition, for my lunch, for things like that.
Life started
I don't know. I don't even know how I thrived. And then before I knew it, in class, Mascom were about 22 people. So it was the best class. I had in the late Tamare Mirundi, Tuguragara Matojo, James Opoka, Igundura, Habat Muhumuza, Chigos, name all the people.
You talk about colossuses in the trade of journalism.
All of them. The president had just called them fishmongers. So they decided to come back to upgrade.
Wow.
So I was in the coolest class.
You guys were out in practice.
Those ones who come with pens, rubbers, 2 dictionaries, so you don't miss anything. So they would pay for my British Council membership.
Wow.
I go, I do work and support courseworks. And then I thrived and survived. They would pick me, drop me. And the late Christine picked me from CCE, introduced me to her parents, and we started to live together.
What a life.
Yes.
And so by the time you're done with university, you have a home.
No, we had an apartment here in Bukoto, Brown Flats. We lived there. So we had our own house.
You and Christine?
Yes, I had Christine. Until God took her.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So she protected me. She was a black belt taekwondo. So if you came in any way, I was covered. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. I had Christine. I had Prosper, her bigger brother, her parents, and friends, lots of friends. Actually, people who met me at campus, there was even a rumor that I was dating some very bougie man whom I had never met.
Because you were living the life.
Oh, I would swim at Hotel Equatorio. I would do gigs because I loved IT. So I would get some gigs to do some data for some people and stuff. And so I lived a good life. I didn't suffer. I was supposed to suffer. I didn't. Not a single day. And I came top of my class.
Huh?
Top of the faculty. With that.
So when you walk out with your accolades clear, top and all, what was your first formal job out of school now?
So New Vision calls me to offer me a job, and I'm thinking, no way. I'm not going to go and write these painful stories. I don't like pain. I have enough pain that I am shielding, because everybody sees the smile.
So some of those that knew you then will be surprised tonight.
Yes.
Getting the finer details.
They don't know.
Of your incredible life story.
They saw this girl that loved to wear white, that smiled, that did courseworks, that passed exams. They asked me to stay and lecture in Mascom.
You said, no.
I said, nah. I didn't know, I didn't even know what was going on. I think young people today know a lot of things. Did you know what was happening in your life at that point?
I'm the one supposed to be asking the questions.
Life was just happening.
It's me asking the questions. You are answering.
Okay. So let me answer. I didn't know what was happening.
But
I
you knew for sure what you didn't want to do.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I think then I lived well. Later on in life, a friend of mine, Clara, introduced me to a word called thinking. Me, I lived my life every day.
One day at a time.
Yeah, I never worried. I didn't know that there was worry. I didn't know many things.
Well, because for you, the worst was already behind.
Thank you, because the things I had gone through, really. So I honestly, and when I tell people sometimes they don't believe me, I never used to think. And I think thinking is a big component of worrying. So I never used to think. I would wake up and do what I'm supposed to do for that day, and then, oh, I was a heavy sleeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how you are balancing all these things and then heavy sleeping?
Yes. I would sleep soundly.
Judith.
Soundly, yes.
But then, where we started from, you were telling us about your journey in the corporate world.
Yes. So all this time, as I am studying, I did a stint at psychology, but after that, my classmates got me an internship at BOU.
Bank of Uganda.
See how things be going up?
From a little faculty at the university to the central bank.
Yes, in the department of PR.
Ooh.
And you know, they would tell us all these things, you don't embarrass the central bank, and then people are giving you some money so that you're not, your pocket is not empty, because it's a cardinal sin in the central bank.
Not to have money on you.
Yeah, and people are very kind, and people are giving you all this advice. Central bank then was also going through an HIV hit. I remember a friend in class telling me, you look at everyone in here, I know that we are all sick, even me, I am sick. So
you better make
hold
a choice
yourself
of whether
properly.
you want to join us.
Yeah, so I joined with a friend called Farida, and so we thrived very well. People were very kind then. The late Katwere, who was the deputy PR director, was like a dad. And everyone was protecting us. And after that, someone referred me to Capital Markets Authority. They were going to set it up to Mr. Japheth Kato. And then I found myself writing a proposal for setting up their communications department. That was big.
Wow.
It later on gave a job to my late matron, Anne.
Wow. I know Anne.
Yes.
I worked with her many years ago.
Yeah.
Chohei was her name.
Yes. So we're together in that mass comm class with Anne Johire. We come a long way.
She was a trailblazing news anchor on a TV station where I cut my teeth.
I know.
Judith.
I know. So then I worked in Bank of Uganda. Then I did that gig with Capital Markets Authority that gave me a lot of confidence. And then I was seconded to go to UCB for my second level internship.
And that's where now the other story that we started with started up. And
yes.
Now let's come down to today.
Okay.
You've done through the runs and all that. But let me get a bit personal here. And please allow me. Judith, do you have any children of your own?
Yes.
Well,
I am a mother of 4. I have 2 beautiful daughters and 2 handsome sons.
Any one of those intending or with the aspiration of joining the Holy Order?
Absolutely not.
You've scared.
They do not even want to hear of it, not even banking.
Do they know your life story in as far as that's concerned? Or are they going to hear it for the first time tonight?
Maybe one of them or 2 of them may hear it for the first time, but I think the older ones know. Lately, I talk freely about my life. There is when you hit the 4th floor, and now I'm going to hit the 5th floor this year.
Wow.
And then really you start wondering, why are people gagging us up?
Speak out. If for nothing else, there's someone living
One
your
person.
exact situation and are so
doesn't even know what
hopeless
to do.
that they could end up being like you.
Yes.
Tonight, you are your own entrepreneur. You've gone through the vagaries of entrepreneurship where you've started a business and then failed. COVID came, you had started a nursery school, an international school, and for 2 years it closed, you lost your teachers, the children grew up, so you couldn't get back the stock.
I couldn't get them back.
There
was no stock. There was no opening stock.
How did that feel, Judith? Doesn't that
crazy.
feel like...
that closed. I had an advertising agency, Brandfield, that closed. I had a salon on Kimathi Avenue, that closed. And a couple of other things. But what didn't close is hope.
Your faith to live another day.
Yes. When there's something about knowing God. All of the things, by the way, that I've told you about, it was not me. It was my God.
Taking you through the kind of challenges you're going through, that was God?
Yes. I remember the late Ketra. Why is everyone I'm referring to gone? What am I doing here?
To ask everybody that you make a reference to except your mother and yourself.
Why are they gone? The late Ketra came to my office at Housing Finance with Butajira Paula. Paula is still alive.
Gladly.
She can attest to this. And as they sat before me, I asked her, I had just had my last born, this big, out of stress.
Can you imagine?
And I asked her, why would you want to make me a cover girl? On a magazine, you don't know me. Look at me. You can find beautiful girls out there. Okay, well, my self-esteem was starting to go down.
Truth is, Ketra was my friend and all that. You are telling her you are not... you were normal to her.
I was normal to her.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a bald-headed guy coming up for my show.
I didn't see it that way. So this is what she told me. I will paraphrase it, but that's what she told me. She said, I have been in circles where your name comes up. And every time your name comes up, they say you are like a cat.
9 lives.
You have 9 lives. Every time they think you're now gone, then they see you. And then he said, you seem to have a different kind of God that has got your back. And I would like to hear your story. And I would like the world to know your story.
Gladly I'm here. It looks like you exhausted your 9 cat lives and now you are on the 12th. I don't know what animal you are, Judith, but I'm glad you're still alive.
I don't know. I'm God's child. That's who I am.
When you look back, are there any deeply rooted regrets you hold in a certain episode of your life, like you wish if you were to give an opportunity to go back, turn the hands of time, you could change it?
No.
I love that.
Nothing. All my imperfections, all my mistakes, all my conquests,
your pitfalls, even
everything
just plays into the other, and the trajectory is upward.
Yes, and I'm still making many mistakes.
But you're still living.
Because that's life.
Judith, what in your today's living gets you angry,
Lies.
if at all?
Yeah, I get angry. Lies, especially this, I'm going to say in Runyankore, then you will translate for your audience.
If I can manage, because the depth of your language.
Okubiha nokubeherera.
Telling lies and bearing false witness against someone.
Do you see when you put it in English that it loses its weight?
Maybe because I'm a bad translator, but
No,
that's how I
that
understand
is
it.
how it is translated because it's a commandment. Throughout my life, people
It is bad
have-
for me to tell you a lie.
Yeah.
But even worse, to tell a lie about you to someone else or to tell a lie about someone else to you.
Yes. That is something that is damaging people. It is something that is a monster in the corporate corridors, in homes, everywhere. And it is something that is less talked about than adultery. I don't know why.
Judith, you gave me such a huge challenge.
When
Are we
preachers...
supposed to put this on a weighing scale and know which is heavier than the other, adultery and telling
Not
lies?
really, but I'm
They
just
seem to be in
wondering
the
why
same
when
WhatsApp
two
group.
people agree to go and do their thing, it's such a big deal, bigger than when somebody kills you while you're still alive.
And tells lies about you.
Some people are walking the streets, they are dead.
Because
Their brother lied, because their sister lied, because their co-worker set them up and lied. People have lost jobs, people have lost lives, people have lost families
because of lies.
because someone just bears false witness.
Okay, Judith, we will not
That
dwell
gets
so
me
much on
angry.
that
I think you can
because
see that I'm getting
you're
angry
getting
now.
angry.
Yes.
Now let's flip it on the other side. What gives you a good laugh? You seem to be very easy to impress.
Oh my goodness. Children. When I see a child, I smile.
Whether they're yours or not,
Yeah. Whether they are the clean ones that you people like or the other ones that you people don't like. Yes.
even when they are in the wrong, you still come to
Yes.
All right, now let's talk
Although I've
food.
fought with my children as they grow older because I'm trying to
Shape them.
shape them, and I've not probably done a very good job, but I have tried.
Of course, it is expected you wouldn't do such a sterling job, considering that you love them to the point of spoiling them.
Yes, and the way I raise them is not the way I was raised. So they can stand up and talk back
at
to
you.
me and analyze me and turn me upside
You are a
down.
daughter of a former nun. Yeah, not a daughter of a former nun. You know the
Yeah.
stories we tell our children. You see, I used to walk these many kilometers.
Yeah,
to
they say that's
school.
your problem.
That was your father. He didn't have a car, but you
Yeah.
as a dad, you have
No,
a car.
my daughter asked and said, but we didn't ask to be here. You're the one who brought us here. So whatever you're doing, do.
Because we are your choice.
Yeah, you made your choice, so you must.
You were not our choice. If we had to choose parents, you wouldn't be one of
They
them.
probably would have chosen somebody
Someone
else
else.
who has a Lamborghini and jets and things like that. I don't know, maybe not.
They will
Maybe
tell
they
the
would have
story when they
chosen
sit
me.
here.
I don't know.
Let's talk food, Judy.
Food.
Do you love your food? And if so, what's your best dish?
I like to drink more than to eat. I love
Soft
passion
drinks?
fruit juice. I don't take alcohol.
Huh?
I tried and failed. Tried and failed.
You're a disgrace to the religion.
Yes, I am. I remember, let me tell you one quick story. So this other bank I was working with, and then we had a party. One of my staff members was leaving, and then one of the MDs said, I ordered for water, room temperature, standard. And then he said, no.
Make that a champagne.
Make that, yeah.
Prosecco.
And then I said, I'm sorry, I don't take that either. And then he hit the table. I think he had had one too many. Bam! What's your vice? I'm like, okay, I have way too many vices, unless you have
A whole
the
sack to
entire
carry them.
night. But for today, alcohol is not one of them.
So what's your
But
favorite dish?
I don't mind people
Who take alcohol?
take alcohol. I serve it. I used to serve it. I don't serve it anymore. Yeah, this year, starting this year, I made a mental note that it didn't serve much purpose for me to serve it.
So
So I
you see
succeed.
a huge reduction in the number of visitors and friends. That
Yeah,
come your way.
the reduction
Please
is
don't look at me.
notable.
I'm also at this age where you take whatever
Yeah,
you
but
offer.
the tea that we make and Chindazi is just amazing in this season, so you should visit often. And
Your favorite
I
dish?
love matoke and groundnuts. The only reason I never lived abroad
Because your mashed toke
must be there.
and your chinyewa.
Yeah.
Judith, this is a very beautiful country in which we happen to find ourselves and call home. Throughout your very many ups and downs and the turmoil that life has thrown at you, but also the joys and happiness that you've received, I'm sure there must be that place in Uganda where you have been or would love to be that you believe would give you tranquility.
Fort Potter. Fort Potter.
You know, 11 out of 8 people that I ask that question give that answer.
Really?
Well, you haven't looked at the math, but yeah, majority of
Fort Potter, but again, I told you I'm protected and provided for by the divine. Guess what? Someone just gave me 2 acres of land. Gave me, please listen carefully, in Fort Potter.
I need to know your friends. Judith.
After I answered that question, they gave me land.
So maybe then for me who asks those kind of questions,
Just be my friend.
I've been for the last donkey's years, Judith, but all I get is inshallah and some vibes.
Stick around me, I'll take you places.
Do you take some time off to relax? And if you do, how do you let down your hair, Judith?
Okay, I'm one of those very different Catholics. I do yoga.
Is it against the Catholic
Yeah.
canon?
I have been told that Itobite is this or that or the other. I really don't know, but for me, there's only one God.
And you have your
And I
personal
don't mind.
relationship with that God.
I don't mind where the relationship is consummated. It could be anywhere, really.
But
And so I love to do yoga. I've not been very up to date lately. I love to swim. Swimming is my first exercise love.
wow.
And my place of peace. I can lie on my back
And just float.
and just float away all the issues. These people who love to hike and climb the mountains, God bless them.
We who do the marathons.
The
double
marathons,
blessings.
I have tried the marathon, but honestly, I don't like it.
I know. It's very difficult to run when there's no one chasing you.
Yeah,
Judith, a very...
I actually tried. I was a member of the Hashers at one point, until they poured beer in a dirty
Shoe and asked you
shoe
to
and
drink
asked to baptize me and things like that. I said no. So I left.
You would rather have baptism by fire,
Yeah.
not by beer or
Oh,
a
I
dirty
have had that fire baptize me, so let me sit well in it.
shoe. Judith, you are quite something else. Obviously, you have lived an illustrious story, an incredible life story, but this is not where your story ends. And I keep telling people on this program that here we push the frontiers. So when you close your eyes, Judith, do you see Judith 5 years from today? Yes, you do. Even 10 years, perhaps even another 50, another. Where do you see yourself?
Living a very simple life, traveling the world.
Wow.
I can't get enough.
Of seeing new places.
Even if you told me now, after this show, are you free? Karamoja, here we come. I just can't get enough of seeing new places. And so I've joined an interesting VIP travel club called Viago.
Wow.
And last month I was in Dubai, like my 10th time, but it felt like it was my first time.
Because you were
For the first time, I was intentional to go and have fun.
and fun you had.
Oh, lots of it. Lots of it. And in June, I'm going to Greece. And so those 5 years you're talking about, for me, they already started.
It's just
Because
living.
as I told you, everyone I'm referring to seems to be gone. So if I'm still here by God's grace, I want to enjoy His creation. But also, the other day I told my family that maybe one of these days, if you see me up here preaching, know that I have understood why people stand by the roadsides and preach.
there's something they have gone through, are going through, have seen, have heard,
Yes.
that they need people
So
to
nobody should try to stop me one of these days. If you find me and I say, praise God,
Okay, partly we'll think Judith has now gone bonkers, or now clearly her end has come. Now talk about
Yeah.
the end. I really don't want to end this conversation, Judith.
same way as when I started making my charcoal. People are saying, do those fingers touch in the charcoal? Yes, they do. Why do you?
Let's give it a proper name.
Make
You are
the
making
charcoal.
briquettes.
Yes,
But you want to call it charcoal. Why? Because
Yes.
you want to be so simple.
because I want to be as simple as what life should be.
Wow. I don't want to end this, but we must come to an end of this conversation, Judith. So let us now see the end of our lives. But the question is yours, not mine. When it's all said and done, and there's a tombstone right there, beneath which are your earthly remains, what would you prefer is written on that tombstone?
Here lives a woman that lived.
Let's put it this way. Here lies. Oh, you
I'm
want to be
still going to
standing?
be alive.
Here lives.
A woman that lived. I'm going to be praising God. It's going to be a different landscape.
I asked someone in a private conversation not
There's,
for
go,
this
there's going to be
program,
just the body in there.
but you'll be.
I'll be alive.
I was telling you, I asked this question to someone in a private conversation, not on this program. And I think we're looking at types of marble and said, what kind of marble would you want to be? And they said, marble? Inter me in the ground and plant a tree. And when that tree has made branches, put a sitting area around the tree
You know,
so
and
that
put
people
some
can
books
come
there.
and sit
Ooh.
and just
Ooh,
live
can I
with
just
me.
borrow that?
There's no exclusivity or pattern to that idea. Now we know how to inter you.
Let's borrow that. Please make sure, in case I go before you,
Which I
come
think
with
is,
the tree.
I don't say it's a sure deal, yeah, for sure.
I'm
be
still
around.
here for the long haul. Don't write me off so quickly. I've
Is-
told you, my lives keep renewing. Why? Because my mother's prayers, even right now as we speak, I am sure
She is praying for you.
for me. I am sure.
I'm going to make a request that obviously I won't take no for an answer, and the good thing is there will be millions of witnesses. Can I have her on the program?
No.
Did you hear the part where I said I won't take no for an answer?
No.
I will find and ask her myself. If
You
she says
ask
no, I'll
her yourself.
respect that. But you're no,
she's,
no.
She's making 90
Oh dear.
on the 15th of May. Maybe she might be in a good mood then. Yeah, but
We'll try. I know.
she has
slowing
lost
down.
her eyesight, but she has not lost her faith.
And her sense of speech.
And her sense of humor. You would love her.
See? That's why.
You would love her, and she would tell you all these incredible stories about her life.
Indeed. So incredible life stories with Simon Kasyate tonight on the program. Even more incredible. Thank you to you who have watched this episode on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel so that we can usher you into a world and an array of incredible life stories, such as Judith is here, that she's shared with us so unreservedly, so generously, and with great attention to detail so
Detail.
much so that in
People
fact,
need to know the details, Simon.
I may have to come back another
Everyone
time.
tells us the bigger picture. But what builds the big picture? What builds hope?
We must end this. Have a wonderful time. We meet same time, same place on the program another time.
Thank you.
Everyone has a life story to tell, but an incredible life story is shared and told differently.